Obviously, I have fallen in love with your farm animals, like everybody on social media. And I think that that genuine passion is something that comes through in Rams big time. But that was not something that I was aware of when I first fell in love with Jurassic Park. So it was making me wonder now, was that something that you were channeling while playing Alan Grant back then?
No, I've always been attached to animals. I grew up in a sort of animal loving house. My parents were more obviously fond of their animals than they were of their children. Well, more, yeah. No, they loved it. They loved us, but the dogs and the cats got all the cuddles. You know what I mean?
I have that same problem in this house.
Yeah. With rams, it wasn't a difficult jump because I have my own sheep here. At any time, I have about 30 sheep. My sheep are a little bit prettier than the ones in rams. I have Suffolk sheep. They're black faces and black socks. They're gorgeous. Yeah, I think I have an affinity for animals, and it's been nice being here during what is obviously a quiet time during the pandemic, because none of my animals are aware of what's going on anywhere, and they're all very pleased to see me. That's gratifying. Such animals as they are in Jurassic tend to be vaguely on the hostile side. And you wouldn't want to run into them on a dark night. Apart from the herb-eating ones, which would probably squash you by the time they get around to passing you, which would take about half a day. They're so big. No, I don't think there's anything of an animal lover in Alan Grant. He likes bones. You know, the living things are not such. Not so attractive.
That's fair. That's fair. So jumping into Rams full force now, when you first signed on for the project, even with all the experience you've had over the years, is there any particular new challenge that Rams posed that you were especially excited to tackle?
Look, every film is a challenge. And that was very challenging for me because I just finished Blackbird with Roger Michell and Susan Sarandon and so on. And that had been the third film on trot that I and this was number 4 back to back. And 4 in 1 year is probably more than is the doctor would advise. And I was reluctant to take this on. I was reluctant to take it on because it's sort of a remake of an Icelandic film. And I wasn't interested in doing a remake. And then I realized when I read the script, it was entirely different, really, in tone and in substance. And it was exhausting to do because I'm just sort of in every scene, and I never got a break. And it took me right through to Christmas, and then I sort of got home a sort of limp sack of a man. But I'm glad I did it because I've had such really good feedback from the film, and people, you know, I've been looking at sort of what's around in current cinema and what's up for, you know, Oscars and so on. And there's some really good films to be had, but they're mostly bloody miserable, you know, and depressing. And I sort of don't want to. I'm reluctant to watch them because and you know, life's pretty bleak as it is. I'm so concerned for humanity and my friends and my loved ones and for the countries that I love best. So the idea of watching, you know, more misery is unappealing. But you know, people come out of this film going, "Oh God, I just feel better about things." So, yeah, I just coined the phrase in the last interview I did. It's not a feel-good film, but it's a feel-better film. Does that make sense?
It does make sense, very much. And I feel like I need more of those in my life. And I think I'm just connecting the dots here because these are both Australian films. But if you want another one in that category, you should go check out Penguin Bloom. It's so good.
Oh yeah.
It's phenomenal, and it's got heartbreaking components as well, but it also leaves you in a place where you're inspired and hopeful.
I must remember that. I've got to. Yeah. Is my friend Rachel House, is she in it?
She is in it. She's quite good in it too.
Yeah. And she's also in this animated film.
Soul.
Soul, yes. That's the other one. I've got to see both those.
She's great in both of them.
Yeah, I love her dearly, and I'll see anything that she's in. In The Hunt for the Wilder People, she was the acting coach for Julian, and we did the table read, and there was no one to play the social worker at this point, and so she read it, and at the end of the table read, Tiger said, "Oh, yeah, you might as well play it. Yeah, go on. Yeah, you play it." So last minute thing. I mean, Taika uses her in absolutely everything he does, and why wouldn't you? She's fabulous.
I have a Rachel House inspired question for you, because I just had a lengthy interview and we talked a good deal about something that I've become a little obsessed with. She kept telling me about the value of culture on New Zealand film sets. So given the fact that I think what she was describing would benefit sets all over the world, what is something about filming a movie in New Zealand that you would like to take with you to other sets that are taking place in other parts of the world?
Well, the first thing is we always start with a blessing, and there's always someone who speaks of and to the land, to the air, the mountain, the sea, and the mountain, the land, the sea, and I always feel like that sort of that opens a door to something else, and also gives you permission in a weird way, and brings you together as a cast and crew in a sort of spiritual sense. I think that's very important. But the older I get, the more I believe in ceremony of some kind. I'm not in any way religious, but I love going into cathedrals, for instance, if I'm in Europe, okay, and there's nothing to do on a Sunday. There's often very little to do on a Sunday in Europe. So go to a cathedral, go to evensong, listen to the choir, and just partake in that ceremony, and there's something about old rituals that's very kind of comforting, and puts you into a context. I mean, you can walk through a cathedral as a tourist and go, "Well, that's beautiful," and "Oh, look at those lovely arches," but to actually contextualize it and be part of a ceremony that's been conducted in that building since the day it was, they finished building it, I think it's very, very. I'm interested to know what she would take in terms of that.
I hope I pronounced this correctly, but she was explaining something to me called Manaki Tana. Just this idea of essentially opening your arms to everyone on set and creating an environment where everybody feels supported. And I just really appreciated that, and I wish, like, not only on film sets, but every place of business that quality was taken more seriously.
Oh, that's beautiful, isn't it? Yeah.
I'm going to ask you another Rams question, because one of the things about the movie that really struck me is that it gives you a little bit of everything. It gives you comedic beats, and then it gets into some deep tragedy. So for you tackling that role, how do you make sure that you are hitting all of those different styles and tones, but still making the character feel cohesive?
Well, yeah, that's a good question. I hope I've done so. Do you think I did so?
I 100% think you did, and I'm not
Right.
because I'm speaking to you. I truly do think you nailed this role, and I'm going to highly recommend it to our viewers.
Thanks so much. It's good. Well, look, I think I've always thought it's a mistake to try and be comedic. Just stay true to the character. I especially as I'm not a comedian. One of the things that's very and it's very annoying is how and many of them are many of my friends are how good comedians can be as actors. Doesn't work the other way around. Don't ask an actor to be funny. It's just that's the worst mistake. But you can ask a comedian to act, and it's usually you'll usually get something just fantastic. I mean, if you think of Billy Connolly, Eric Bana was a stand-up comedian. What the hell? Now he's one of the best leading men in the world. What? That's really annoying. It's really annoying. If it wasn't such a nice guy, I'd be infuriated. Rainn Wilson, comedian. His performance is for me is the best thing in Blackbird. Did you see Blackbird?
I didn't see it, but I was just watching the trailer very recently, and I have it on my list.
Well, he plays this very, very funny character with such sort of sad and poignant dimensions, and just lifts the film out of into another dimension. And I love him, and I just think he's fantastic. I mean, Steve Martin, what a great actor. Robin Williams could be just fabulous. I was lucky to do a film with Robin, and but also I wouldn't want to be a comedian because they're sometimes they're the saddest people. I mean, there was something just heartbreaking about Robin. Just to be in his company that would break my heart, because I just felt, it didn't you didn't need to be massively empathetic to just feel such a deep sadness inside him. It's hard to explain, but he only felt right when he had an audience. And when he didn't have an audience, when it was just you, he was sort of desolate. And then he'd come out of his trailer and there'd be 4 or 5, PAs and runners and assistant directors and stuff like that. When you have an audience, and you'd just be Robin, he'd be riffing off people's names, and just the most extraordinary mind I've ever come across. Ask me another question. Lunch isn't ready yet.
All right. I could definitely keep going and going. Here, I'll squeeze in my Jurassic Park 3 question so I get it in, because
good.
No surprise here. I truly do have a great appreciation for every single installment of that franchise, but there's one thing that stands out that people love to share on social media as a meme now, and I'm wondering your take on it. The very first time you read the scene in Jurassic Park 3 when Alan has the dream and wakes up and the raptor says his name, what was your first impression when you read that?
Oh, that's pretty cool. Yeah, that's yeah. I was just talking to someone earlier in the day who said, I really like Jurassic Park 3, and it gets an unfair treat. I think here's from Rotten Tomatoes. I think it was him, and I said, "Thank you very much." I agree that the last 10 minutes are way too easy and way too hurried. But I think up to that point, it's pretty damn good. But more than that, for me, by the time I got to number 3, probably a bit late in the day, I'd sort of worked out how to play that character, and which I hadn't really quite gotten around to in the first one. I was still trying to work out how do you play that guy in the hat? Something that comes completely naturally to someone like Harrison Ford, not naturally to me, and something that Chris Pratt, fantastic guy, has given a lot of thought to and really worked out how to do it. And you have to think out how to do that. It's a special skill. It's not, you're not just playing a character. You need to apply a whole bunch of, you need a whole skill set. You need a whole armory to play an action hero. And I wish I'd known what those skills were when we did the first one, but there we are.
You're so self-deprecating, and all I see is confidence in basically everything that you're describing right now in Alan Grant in the first movie.
Well, that's good. I got away with it then.
You most certainly did. Here's a weird Thor Ragnarok question for you, because this has been a very hot topic of conversation among the Collider staff, and it's a little offbeat, I'm warning you.
Okay.
So, are you, Matt Damon, and Luke Hemsworth, are you playing as Guardian actors, or did Loki kidnap the real Sam Neill and he's forcing actors? I can't take credit for that. It's something swirling around social media, but we've been having fun with the idea.
That's hilarious. But look, I mean, when I went to see the film, because I'm not really entirely, nerdishly, rusted on to the Marvel franchise. I was completely baffled by so many things. Okay, I went with friends who sort of knew a bit more than me. Do you know what planet we're on at the moment? And is that Hopkins or is it? Was that like and they were explaining it. They said, "You're in the film. Why do we have to explain it to you?" I said, "Because I'm a bit lost. I'm truly lost here." But no, I shouldn't really confess to that. I should really know what's going on. It is a strange. It's not actually. It's that it looks like Tony Hopkins, but it's not.
Even as someone who is steeped in that franchise all the time, I still have many questions that I don't have the answers to right now. They're making me leave, so I want to record a proper outro, because I meant what I said before. To everybody out there who has not seen Rams, you can get it iTunes, Amazon, anywhere you could purchase a movie digitally on February 5th. And I genuinely recommend it. It is everything that Sam described in those original goals for the movie, and it is a delight. You should check it out. Sam, thank you so much for hanging out with us.
It's a great pleasure. Thank you very much for the chat.